Hey there, it's Senshin here, and today I will be talking about giant Japanese cartoon robots. Mecha anime is the genre that launched anime to the Western world and was for a long time what anime to many people is. From the extremely tense style of Mobile Suit Gundam to the city pop fueled super dimensional fortress Macross, the genre of mecha anime was the dominating force on Japan's pop culture landscape for a lot of time. Since the dawn of animation, the Japanese have been using robots or mechs as a huge focus for a lot of their shows. It has a huge influence on the anime industry. It created some of the best anime ever and is arguably the most important genre in anime. It is said that it started with the manga Tetsujin 28 Go in 1956, even though the robot here wasn't like what we commonly see. But before that, the story that was largely credited for the birth of anime and mecha. Astro Boy was the series with the greatest cultural significance of its time. While not really being what comes to mind when we think of mecha anime by today's standard, it is a story about a fully sentient android, but the messages it spread and the culture it created will lay the groundwork for those to follow it. That being Tetsujin 28 Go, which is considered the grandfather of mecha anime. The authors of both stories consider their experiences living through the Second World War as their biggest inspiration for creating these stories. The roots of anime always have to go back to World War II. Given how much an event like 9/11 influenced modern media today, imagine the huge cultural impact of having two massive bombs dropped on your country would be. And that was reflected in the series that are credited for the birth of anime and mecha. There is two types of mecha anime that started to appear. The traditional super robot shows that feature giant robots with no realistic explanations, with crazy superpowers and giant special attacks. And most mecha anime, especially back in the day, were like that. And the real robot shows feature similar giant robots but fit into a more realistic setting. Japan always made stories about giant creatures attacking mankind. From centuries ago until now, we still see that. And with a clear influence technology and sci-fi has on Japan, a mix of the two happened. Robots now are the main asset for defending Earth from invasions, and the concept likely spiraled from that, giving us many stories and franchises. Many shows such as Mazinger Z and Getter Robots started to shape the genre, but it was in 1979 where one of the most successful franchises ever started, which is Gundam, with the TV series Mobile Suit Gundam, which inspired a lot of anime to come and really changed the industry. The franchise had countless TV shows, toys, games, movies, etc. After its arrival, we saw a huge burst in mecha anime in the 80s. Shows like Robotech, Space Runaway Ideon, and others shaped the 80s and made the genre expand and become more popular. And with every new story, new elements and additions were seen, such as Macross, that took steps away from all of the genre's established tropes and introduced elements that were never seen before. Even though the genre at the time was directed towards the young male demographic, it worked at being extremely emotional and captured the mature audience like Gundam did. It mixed the traditional mech fights and space battles with a love storyline and draw character development. The real robot trend, though, started to appear more with Armored Trooper Bottoms, one of the most realistic mech designs ever. Their designs diverted from the previous trend of flashy colors and extravagant designs to make a more military-based mech design, using camouflage colors and realistic mechanics. It was a military drama with mecha elements, and followed by Zeta Gundam, and the path that other similar series took made the 80s flourish. It was possibly the most interesting decade for the genre. And in the 90s, which didn't come even close to the decade before in terms of mecha, following the huge impact of Akira and other sci-fi titles, which were the most popular and desired genre. While mecha anime didn't have any huge stance in the beginning of the decade, but that all changes when some otakus in Osaka were having fun and were able to create a studio called Gainax, which in 1995 presented us with the most iconic contribution to the contemporary anime canon, which brought the studio to the spotlight, grossing hundreds of billions of yen from a single property. What would spark a 2.5 decades of maddened debate in every possible form and in every possible language over who the best girl is when it's clearly Misato? Enter Neon Genesis Evangelion. At first glance, Eva is a classic mecha anime. The year is 2015, and the world stands at the brink of annihilation. Humanity's last hope is NERV, a shadowy agency of the United Nations responsible for the production of the Evangelions, biomachines that can defeat beings called angels as they attack the futuristic fortified city of Tokyo 3. The anime explored the mental development of pilots and members of NERV as they try to prevent yet another cataclysm or impact. But to say that that's all would be a lie. The anime completely subverts the ultimate mecha anime tropes. It turns the sanctity of father and son upside down and explores the loneliness that our protagonist is in, the loneliness that seems to permeate the whole story. A character-driven story based on Japan's lost generation, a venture into postmodernist anime narrative form, a psychological drama about the theories of Carl Jung and Freud. And it's all of that. For Neon Genesis Evangelion packages itself as a traditional mecha anime, only to reinvent the form completely, unafraid of stripping away all color or formality of design, breathing new life into anime conventions. Aesthetic and storytelling are hand in hand, as the visual tropes here informs both law and symbolism. The art direction references mystical traditions in Judaism and Christianity, interlacing symbols together to create new meanings. Every character is multidimensional, and we get to see them interact in a multitude of ways. Through conversations, through silence, through an exchange of gazes within each other, through banter. The climax of the story is a tour de force, rarely seen in any medium, an explosion of mixed media that helps solidify the anime themes through a collage of form and meaning. Eva is a timeless masterpiece. I did shift away from the main topic of this video and went deep because of how good it really is. But with all of that said, that's not even Gainax's best mecha anime. Not many people would bat an eye to your average mecha shows nowadays. But if you give the robots a bunch of grumpy faces, killer sunglasses, drills, and the possibility to grow out of proportion when the power of belief is strong enough, then you've got everybody's attention. The only question is, who could pull something like that off? Well, the answer to that at the time was Studio Gainax. The latter half of the 2000s were a formative period in modern anime, with the likes of Death Note, Code Geass, and the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya making their mark on the medium. Anime was seeing a resurgence that would eventually lead to the rise of the streaming era. The legendary studio Gainax had recently seen a lot of their top talents leave the studio, most notably when Hideaki Anno split off to form Studio Kara for the Evangelion rebuilds. However, there was a new age of rising stars emerging from within Gainax. Led by Dead Leaf's director Hiroyuki Imaishi, the group of Gainax-raised creators were about to make anime history, assisted by mecha designer and masterful animator Yo Yoshinari, character designer Atsushi Nishigori, and screenwriter Kazuki Nakashima. The team was about to channel all of their Fully Cooley and Die-Buster energy into a single word: drills. Gurren Lagann is nowhere close to your average mecha anime. It is a bold story with true depth and dualistic wonderful characters. Shameless in its flair and grandness, iconic and full of heart and legendary moments. A lovely blend of idealism and realism, and some of the best theming and character designs in anime. It is probably the most unique and the best executed mecha anime ever, which is clear to anyone that watched it, or at least is aware of its impact and popularity. I can literally go for hours about it, because it is my all-time favorite anime, but I'll do that later when it gets its own video, which is inevitable. But following the year 2007, not a single mecha anime did what the previously mentioned titles ever did. There was always new mech shows popping out from time to time, rarely good ones but mostly awful. And Gundam didn't slow down either from releasing good and bad titles almost every year. But mecha anime started falling. It is because of the huge popularity anime gained through other genres such as shonen, and maybe they just lost their unique touch and the interest decreased with the new generation and modern pop culture. As mecha anime is looked at by those unfamiliar as this weird corny concepts, while it is a door for some of the best narratives and characters seen in anime. I by no means lived in the 80s or the 90s to live in the era of such phenomena, to have a reason to fall in love with such concepts. No nostalgia is involved. But through going back in time and exploring it, I did learn a lot, not just about modern anime history, but real life history and cultural differences through times and generations. A lot of great stories with amazing diverse themes, interests, talents, and amazing people I learned a lot from. The idea I push the most in my channel is that anime is way more than just sitting down and enjoying the thing, but about that in the addition of real life lessons and understanding of art. A self-development journey of itself through exploration and adapting. And that is what learning and experiencing anime from different generations and different genre gave me. So if you are one of the people that usually look at mecha anime as this exotic old school style and trend that would be a waste of time, reconsider that and give some of them a chance. You probably won't lose anything, but this might be your next thing. Or at least I hope it does. Many thanks for watching.